Hey guys, it's Mary and welcome back to Study Journey. Welcome back to the Python series. This is the second episode of the word game, and in today's video we're going to be moving what we need into a new file as well as starting on the word score. So without further ado, let's get on with the video. Alright, so in the last video we have set up our game and then also understood basically what we're trying to do with this game. So I'm going to open it up, CS Practice, and then PS3.2, which is where I kept everything. And if we open up the instructions, let's look at the next step we have to take in this game. So we have already got started and then we downloaded everything we needed. So the first step is the word scores, and it says that the first step is to implement a function that calculates the score for a single word. Fill in the code for get word score in ps3.py according to the function specifications. And as a reminder, here are the rules for scoring a word, and it tells you the rules, and that we should use the Scrabble letter values dictionary defined at the top of ps3.py. So like I did in the previous game, Hangman, I always opened a new Python file and then wrote my individual code there and then pasted it back to the ps3.py so I wouldn't mess anything up. So that's what I'm going to do with this one as well. So I'm going to open the ps3.py first, and then I'm going to file and then make a new Python file. So I'm going to save it as word game, and then I'm going to make it a Python file. And now I'm going to save it to CS Practice. Now that I have this saved in the directory CS Practice, which is outside right here, now that I have this Python file, I can write individual code in here. So it says that our first thing that we need to do is to fill in the code for get word score. So as we can see down here, problem 1 is scoring a word and it says get word score. So I'm going to copy, define get word score. And this is what we're going to be doing right now. So now as we can see, it tells us that we have to use the Scrabble letter values on the top, and because this is a word game and we're going to be using the words from the word list, we can copy everything above here into our file right here because we're going to be needing all of this. So the define load words and then get frequency dictionary. I'm just going to copy everything that they have already gave us over. So we have the word list, and I'm going to make all the indentions a tab because this is what I like to do when I am writing my code, and it is just easier if everything else is in line. So everything I have right here, I'm going to make it a tab. Remember that all of the indentions for your file have to be the same, otherwise your file wouldn't work. And this is what I'm making sure right now. So now that I have the first one done, I'm going to just quickly do the second one. Now it's fine if you don't change the indentions and just leave it as is, but make sure everything you type after that has the same indentation as the ones they have right here. So now that we have this fixed, we are going to do this first problem, which is get word score. Now, if we look to the instructions, so the first step is to implement a function that calculates the score of a single word, and this is going to go under the code get word score, and the instructions give us the rules that we must implement into our code. So it tells us here that the score for a word is going to be the product of two components. So there's a first component, which is just the sum of the points for letters in the word, and the second component, which is either this formula or 1, whichever is greater. And the formula right here is 7 times the word length, and it tells you that the word length is the number of letters used in the word, and minus 3 times n minus the word length, and n is the number of letters available in the current hand. So get word score, because there are two components of the scoring for a word, we can write two helper functions to make each code simpler. So the first part of the score is just the sum of the points for letters in the word. So I'm going to define C1 score, which is the first component of the score, and it takes in the parameter word, because that is what we're going to be using to find the sum of the points for letters in the word. We will use the .get method to access the value associated with the key, and in this case it is the letter in a dictionary. So right here we have the dictionary, which is the Scrabble letter values, because we have to get the value for each letter, and the letter right here is going to be called a key in a dictionary. To retrieve the value of a key, it's going to be dictionary.get, and then it's the key and then the default value, which is what it is going to default to if the key is not present in the dictionary. So in our code, we're going to be updating the sum of the score. So we must let our initial sum equals 0, and then we're going to continue updating this for each letter in our dictionary. So for every letter in the word, we're going to run through this loop and find its value. So how we're going to update the value? So to find a value of a single word, we had to use the dictionary, and in this case, our dictionary is named Scrabble letter values. So it's going to be Scrabble letter values.get, and then the key right here is the letter. And then the default value is just going to default to 0 if there is no letter. And for every letter in this word, we're going to find the value of the letter. But we have to add it to the sum to update the sum, so that the sum in the end is going to be a summation of all the different values of each letter in the word. So it's going to be sum plus the value of the letter that we ran in this loop. And then once we're done with this, we can just return the sum. Now that we have the first component of the score, we can now write the first part of the second component of the score. So remember, it says that the second component is either going to be this equation or 1, whichever value is greater. So right now, we don't have to write a separate function for 1, so we're just going to write a separate function for this equation right here, and then when we put the first and second part of the score together, we can do the if-else. If 1 is greater, then we use 1. If the equation is greater, we use the equation. So right now, we're just going to be defining the second component of the score. And because the second component of the score is going to take the word and find the word length, one of the parameters is going to be word. And then the second parameter is going to be in, because that is what we're going to be using when we are writing the second component. So now that we have this, the first thing we need to do is to find the word length. So how we find the word length? Well, we can define word length, because that is what they're using in their equation right here. And that is just going to be the length of the word. We're using the length function. And now that we have the length of the word, we can just do basically a Python interpretation of this equation right here. And that is just going to be score is equal to 7 times word length. Remember that multiplication is the asterisk in Python. And then you subtract 3 times n minus the word length. Now that we have the score, we can just return the score. This is going to give us the first section of the second component of the score. Now in the next episode, we're going to be putting together the first component and then the second component, and to actually write get word score.